I'm not really a current affairs kind of guy. I don't normally wade in on matters of drama, and neither do I particularly enjoy making snap reactions to controversial topics. But I'm trying out new things. Payday as a franchise means an awful lot to me, and the events of the last week or so have been incredibly encouraging and concerning at the same time. The old Payday dichotomy. I'm going to show you a clip of Almir on his Thursday Heist with Almir stream now, and I'm going to let you come to your own initial conclusions regarding what he says. But just for a bit of context, Almir is responding to a chatter who is saying, "I'm sorry for being so negative in the early days, things are really looking up," with a pinch of gratitude and a message to the fans of Payday.
I just want to raise something with the Payday community that I think is very important for us to say. You can't be a heister and say, you know what, I'll come back in 2 years. Maybe the game is better then. Like, we need you to be here now and support us now if you want there to be a game in 2 years. You know what I mean? You're leaving a lot to chance if you're a big Payday fan and you're just hoping or assuming that Payday 3 will be around in 5 years if you do not support Payday 3 right now. You know what I mean? So this is a call to action to everyone in the Payday community. If you like what we're cooking now, if you feel that we've listened to you, support us. Play the game. Buy our DLC. Be in the community. Watch our streams, you know. Share your support. I cannot say this enough, right?
That was quite a heavy bombshell to drop in that way. Now, it's no secret that I'm worried about Payday 3 too. I worry for its long-term future and continue to be relatively critical of new content, because I think that the game needs to do better than what we've come to expect in order to retain a larger, more financially viable player base. And I think when you look at these comments in isolation, it's fairly clear that Almir is in a similar situation. One way you can choose to construe this is that he's saying, you cannot call yourself a fan of Payday if you don't pick up and play Payday 3, and if you're waiting for some sweeping changes to turn the game around before you're willing to give it a go, you're essentially turning up to its funeral apathetically. Knowing what I do about the guy, I don't think this is what he meant whatsoever. Whether you're a player who just stuck with Payday 2, tried out Payday 3 on Game Pass effectively for free, or just happened to enjoy the franchise from afar by watching videos online, you're as much a part of the community as anyone else, and I'm sure if I asked Almir about this directly, he'd agree. I don't think it was a good look at face value, and I understand why the words he used rubbed some people the wrong way, but at the same time, I get where he's coming from, and I think lots of people don't fully comprehend the knife-edge situation Payday as a franchise is actually in. As I understand it, the original play-on deal was signed to include 18 months of post-release content, but from what we've seen from a sales and marketing perspective, and with how Starbreeze is angling towards these next two DLCs, I think it's fair to assume those 18 months started when marketing began in March, meaning the game has likely only secured funding up until September. People talking about DLCs 5 and 6 are counting their chickens before they've hatched, in my opinion. Now, I fully expect the contract and its terms to be reviewed by both parties towards its expiration, with a renewal likely heavily dependent on key performance indicators. Things like DLC sales, player retention, and long-term content pipelines. So maybe you can appreciate why there might be a hint of panic in Almir's voice here. If Payday 3 isn't a minimum viable product that will continue to make money for Plaion above and beyond their investment into the studio, it will not be worth them financially supporting it, and they will drop the game in an instant. Remember, Plaion is owned by Embracer Group, who have been utterly ruthless over the past couple of years, so whilst their struggles don't impact the privately owned Starbreeze directly, indirectly they could lead to Payday 3 needing to make higher margins to stay afloat than would normally be the case. Of course, Starbreeze still crucially owns the rights to the IP of Payday. If they want to, and can afford to, they could continue to develop the game without publisher support. However, they'll need a business case for that, which will be tricky when the D&D game Project Baxter is likely to take priority as a new title unblemished by the sort of launch Payday 3 experienced. It doesn't help Payday 3's case that Starbreeze intend to launch multiple games on the market after Baxter in 2026, meaning there's probably some third games as a service title out there in the early concept phase, also set to take resources from Payday 3. In my opinion, a good faith understanding of what Almir is saying is that there may not be a Payday 3 that gets a chance to develop into the game you want to play in a couple of years if you don't commit to playing it now, because those player numbers are going to dictate whether or not the game is still in development for the long haul. If Payday 3 was ludicrously profitable for Plaion and Starbreeze, we could see a situation where Starbreeze no longer feels the need to work alongside a publisher, as happened with 505 and Payday 2, but that kind of financial success feels a long way off. So the only way I see the game continuing to be developed is if the publisher stays on board. I truly get the urgency of the situation, but I do take objection to the approach here. Anyone discussing my negativity around the series as of late has to remember making videos for this game has taken up a huge part of my life over the past decade. If Payday 3 was to go under, I would lose the audience this channel is predicated on, bearing in mind 99% of what I create is Payday related. So you can appreciate that I don't want to see this game fail. However, it's also important to me that I am truly critical of all the content that I get early access to. It's a responsibility I didn't fully comprehend 12 months ago, and I don't want to squander now. So, no way am I going to start releasing Hail Mary positive reviews because I fear for my own channel going down with a sinking Payday 3 ship. If that happens, I at least want to hang on to my integrity. I'm fully aware of the comments saying that I'm too negatively slanted towards this game recently, but when you care about something in the way I do, and when you want that thing to succeed so intensely, if you see something that you perceive as a mistake or wasted opportunity, you will approach that perceived issue with more vitriol and intensity. Not to mention, if something comes out that I genuinely rate highly, people should know I mean it, because my opinion isn't flip-flopping all over the place. Boys in Blue is the perfect case study for this. Many players are having fun with the heist. Hell, I had fun with the heist, giving it an above average 6.5 out of 10, but I also warned about rushing into a purchase, because at $12 I still don't necessarily think it offers enough value for money as an overall package, and don't believe updates of its scale are enough to quite frankly save the game. Back onto the topic of the future of Payday though, I want to make it clear that Almir is absolutely one of the most passionate people surrounding the franchise. He might not play the game every day, but he's lived and breathed the world around it for the past decade. So many of the opportunities related to his career have come from the success of the Payday series, so I do think we have to give him some leniency for being so passionate in this situation. I don't believe he found the right words, because I don't think the right words are easy to come by right now. Of course, you don't want to panic the community and say, if you don't come back, we're going to shut this game down, but you also don't want players to take it for granted and assume it will be around in development, regardless of its short-term economic viability. It's a real rock and a hard place situation. Make no bones about it, these next two updates in August and September need to be monumental successes. They need to show a complete turnaround in terms of community sentiment, in terms of earning potential, and in terms of setting up a future of Payday. That's why, as I mentioned on Twitter, I have my concerns about there being no update in July. I think it's difficult to ride that momentum wave we have lately if it's back to radio silence for another month. I've seen some people disappointed that I'm bemoaning this. Let the people have their holidays, and I 100% agree with that, but the argument that we waited 7 months for Boys in Blue, we can wait one more for Land of the Free, is a bit of a false equivalence. These upcoming 3 months are more important to the Payday franchise than almost any other period across the past 12 years. It's crunch time to prove Payday 3 is a game that can be successful in the long term. Almir's colleagues' jobs, even his own job for all we know, might be up in the air if that isn't proven to be the case. So I think we need to put that into perspective when analysing this response. He's a passionate guy, and we've been seriously critical of the more corporate feel of Starbreeze's communication in recent years. This was a proper mask-off moment that needs to be viewed from a more personal and individual lens, not analysed like it was a company statement. I truly believe they are working hard. I truly believe they're dedicated to making Payday 3 a better game, and the strain and stresses of this work can bubble over when you see comments in the chat like, "I'll see you in 3 years when the game is finished." It's a fair perspective, but I can see why it feels like a slap in the face for a dev team that knows 3 years isn't gonna cut it. But of course, the question still exists, should you listen to it? I think this is a tricky one to answer. Payday 3 is undoubtedly in a better place now. The devs have worked hard changing certain systems that were maligned as far as the community was concerned at launch, but the core fundamentals of the Payday 3 experience are still as they were. The skill system is built around edge, grit and rush, a large portion of the armor system is still attrition based, and the heists still lack that scale and replayability which typified Payday 2. I don't think we should be guilting players to play a game that isn't designed in the way they enjoy playing. This was always the risk of changing up so much from Payday 2. I also don't know how sensible it is to be so realistic at this stage. Players seeing this panic, seeing that there might not be a live game in 2 years' time, might be put off. They don't want to come in feeling like the saviours of Payday 3, they want to feel as if Payday 3 has secure foundations, regardless of whether they're religiously grinding the game or not. I truly believe you have no responsibility as a fan of this franchise to spend money on it, to open it up and get those player numbers up, or partake in any Payday streams. It's simply not on you. Payday 3 was a calculated business risk, they strayed a long way away from what they knew, and have suffered the consequences as a result. Technical ineptitude also hasn't helped. So players listening to Almir here are well within their rights to say, this is a load of bullshit, I'm not going to be guilted into playing your unfinished game. However, I'd rather have 1,000 of these off-the-cuff, unscripted emotional statements from someone so highly entrenched within the community than one more corporate statement about the state of the game and the industry. It's raw, it's honest, and it's something the fans have to understand. I have my own very real concerns for the future of Payday 3. I follow the game industry closely enough to see the warning signs already, but I also have insight into what the development team have managed over the past 5 or 6 months and what they're hoping to achieve by September. It's truly impressive relative to where we were at launch, and so I'm not ready to write anyone off just yet. I'm finally comfortable recommending players to come back to the game and try it out. I'm not suggesting anyone buy it yet, but I certainly will encourage people to try it out if you've got it on Game Pass or if you've owned it since September, because it's come a long way despite still having a long way to go. And I'd be devastated if we didn't get to see what it could one day become because it failed to find funding after a single year. At the end of the day, I think the best approach is to let the updates do the talking. Players can't be blamed for not playing without a damn good reason to, and I echo a sentiment I've seen a few times in response to this: give us a finished game, then we'll play it. But I'm willing to bet some of us will be swayed by the Call of Houston breakout regardless. Anyway, these are just my thoughts on the future of Payday 3 and how the statements made by Almir last week impact them. I always feel as if anything said live should be taken with a slight pinch of salt, so I don't think you can read into it too intensely. Having said that, it is abundantly clear the fate of the Payday franchise will be effectively dictated by the community response to events over the next 3 months. Let's hope these stacked updates do enough to turn the game around and showcase a product worth funding again. Thank you so much for watching, take care, I'll see you in the next video.
We are working so hard, and the developers especially, right? These devs need all the love and support they can get from you in the Payday community, so really make sure you give your support if you like this franchise. We cannot continue making Payday 3 without you. That is the truth. We cannot continue making Payday 3 if you do not support us. That is a fact. You cannot be one of the heisters that go, yeah, I'll check back in a year's time or in 3 years' time. You know, we need you now. That is the truth. We need you to be here and be here for the Land of the Free update, right?
A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.